today I'm going to briefly explain to you the circulation of blood through the heart in a simple diagram that really helped me understand where the blood was going, whether it had oxygen or not. This diagram really helped me. So hopefully it'll help you guys too. I'm going to use 3 colored pens, blue, red, and purple. So the blue is going to represent deoxygenated blood. The red will represent oxygenated blood, and the purple is going to represent the capillaries, which is the site of gas exchange between the blood and the environment. So it's kind of that in between. So we'll start out with the right side of the heart, and just a few rules before we get started to keep in mind. Arteries take blood away from the heart, and veins take blood back to the heart. Okay? Those are just some 2 rules to just keep in mind. So we're going to start out with the right side of the heart. You know what? Maybe it'll be able to be bigger if I go this way. Okay. So we're going to start with the right side of the heart. Notice I'm using the blue pen. So it all makes sense in a little bit. Okay, so we have the right atrium and the right ventricle. If you're having a hard time remembering which one goes on top, just think alphabetical order, kind of. If you're starting from the top and going to the bottom, atrium, A would come first before V. That kind of helps. So now we're going to do the left side of the heart. We have the left atrium. And the left ventricle. Okay? So, we're going to start in the right ventricle with deoxygenated blood. So we're using the color blue, right? We're going to come out of the right ventricle. Now remember what we said before. Things that are going away from the heart are called arteries. So we're going out of the ventricle. We don't have any oxygen in this blood. So the logical place to go would be to the lungs, right? So the right ventricle would be pumping out to the lungs to get oxygen into the blood, right? So here's the capillaries in the lungs, which is, again, the site of exchange between the environment and the blood. So this is where we're going to get our oxygen from. So we'll call these the pulmonary capillaries. Now, the right ventricle, since we're going away from the heart and towards something else, it's going to be an artery, right? This tube here is going to be an artery. And since we're going to the lungs, it makes sense that it would be called the pulmonary artery. Right? Okay, so now we're at the lungs, right? We get our oxygen, so we're going to switch to the red colored pen. Now the left side of the heart, the job of the left side, is to pump oxygenated blood out to the body. So we call the left side of the heart the systemic circuit, and we call the right side of the heart the pulmonary circuit. Because remember, the right side is getting the deoxygenated blood out to the lungs to be oxygenated, to then be sent to the left side of the heart to go to the systemic circuit or the body tissues. So we go from the lungs back to the heart, right? So remember, veins go back to the heart. So since we're coming from the lungs going to the heart, we're going to call these the pulmonary veins. Now we have oxygenated blood going into the left atrium, right? And then we're going to go down into the left ventricle. And the way this whole thing works, atrium to ventricle, is based on pressure systems, which I'll explain in a future video. Now we still have oxygenated blood, right? So we're going to come out of the heart again. So it's going to be an artery, but this is a special kind of artery. It doesn't actually have the name artery in it. The artery that comes out of the left ventricle and pumps blood to the rest of the body is called the aorta. So we're going to have our capillaries here. which would be your body capillaries. So we're going to call them the systemic capillaries. And remember, that's the site of gas exchange between the blood and the environment. So we're taking oxygenated blood and giving it to the systemic capillaries, the body tissues. So we're going to come back out of these capillaries without oxygen in the blood anymore because the tissues used it all up. So we're going to switch back to the blue pen, right? Coming back up. Kind of wrote in my own way, but I'll do my best. Going back up, right? Back into the right atrium. Okay? And the thing this is done through is called the vena cava. So back into the right atrium with some more deoxygenated blood. And now we're just going to keep going around and around. So let's just do some arrows so you guys can follow. So the right ventricle, we have deoxygenated blood. We're using a blue pen to represent the deoxygenated blood, right? It goes out of the heart via the pulmonary arteries, away from the heart, to the lungs. And we reach the pulmonary capillaries. Now we have some oxygen into the blood, so we're going to switch back to the red pen. We're following along. Now we're going to enter the left atrium through the pulmonary veins because we're going back to the heart, so it's a vein. We're coming from the lungs, so it's pulmonary. We're going to go down into the left atrium, into the left ventricle, out of the left ventricle through the aorta to the body tissues, right? And the body tissues use up all the oxygen in the blood. So we're back to a deoxygenated color. We're back to blue. And we're going back into the right atrium with deoxygenated blood. Then the blood here will go down into the ventricle, and it just will keep repeating itself over and over and over. I hope this really helped you guys. It really helped me out. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and yeah, thanks for watching. Hey guys, so from that last video, I don't want you to be left with the impression that the heart is actually shaped like a rectangle. It's not. That was just a visual aid to help you see where everything was going. And I'll post the picture as well so you can see it clearer. And here's the picture. Not actually shaped like this. It's just for your visual aid to just kind of try to see where everything's going. It just makes it make more sense.